Hello everybody and welcome to the off-season recap video of the Detroit Tigers franchise here on MLB The Show 20. We had our second off-season on Thursday. Was quite a stream on Twitch. If you're not following my Twitch, check the link in the description below to do so. But we started off the stream looking for a hitting coach and a third base coach. Thought about possibly firing Gardenhire or at least Tim Coyler here, but we're deciding to keep them on for one more season, fire them in the last year of their deals if they don't work out. So we went for hitting coach first. Jose Lemieux was looking pretty good with +1 bunting, plate discipline, power, and +2 clutch. Definitely looked like a guy we had to put an offer on, so we increased the offer a little bit just to sweeten up the pot for him, and it looked pretty good. Then we were looking for third base coach. Derek Raymond happened to be the guy that we offered there. Same money we offered him as we offered Lemieux. Daniel Norris was up for decision time, had a career year last year, and then David Robertson, who pitched very well. He had one off year in 2019 with the Phillies, but other than that, he's been very good throughout his career, so another guy we were very interested in bringing back. Then Yusmeiro Petit, who pitched to a 3.11 ERA, which was his worst since 2016, but still not bad. Then we had Josh Phegley up for re-signing. I really didn't feel like bringing him back. And then CJ Cron, who I was hoping I wouldn't have to bring back, but would probably bring back as like an insurance policy, hopefully, to make sure that we had a first baseman that could play, because Miggy, you'll see in a minute, regression hit hard. Justin Turner's had 3 very good years in a row, and he had a very good year for us, so we might bring him back too, but Cron was the first guy that we offered to come back. Then Daniel Norris, because of course the pitching, very important that we make sure we bring back the good pitchers. Then David Robertson we bring back, as well as Yusmeiro Petit, so we wanted to keep the bullpen strong. And, of course, the starting pitching. Derek Raymond accepted our offer as the third base coach for the next 3 years, so that's great news. Looking at free agency, a lot of big-profile free agents. Noah Syndergaard is a free agent. Roberto Osuna is a free agent as well. Roberto Perez is the best free agent catcher, so getting rid of Phegley, hopefully we can get somebody. Freddie Freeman is there at first base. Chris Bryant is there at third base, maybe a possible replacement of Justin Turner. Shortstop, though, there is plenty. Javi Baez, Trevor Story, Frankie Lindor, and Carlos Correa all available. As most of you would know by now, I am an Indians fan, so picking up Lindor would be huge for this team. Might be somewhere where we go. Tommy Pham and Andrew McCutchen are available at left field, as well as Eddie Rosario. Starling Marte available at center, and Christian Yelich is out there at right field. Our outfield was pretty good last year, I'd like to say. A lot of young up-and-coming players, but hard to deny Yelich. Carlos Martinez is another interesting guy to look at. A lot of people consider him very inconsistent, but he's had pretty consistent numbers. Noah Syndergaard, on the other hand, has been consistently awesome in real life, but as you can see in this franchise, never under a 4 ERA. Kind of odd for a guy as good as Syndergaard is. Gave up a lot of home runs the last 3 years. Syndergaard was a guy we would have tried to get, but it does not look like we're going to be able to get into his top 3, so we go for Carlos Martinez at $29 million for 2 seasons. I think that fits us pretty well if we can get him for that. Chris Bryant, nobody was going after him, so I offered $72 million over 3 years. And then Frankie Lindor, of course the top target, $135 million for 5 years. I'd love to bring Frankie Lindor to the squad. That would be amazing. Christian Yelich, nobody was going after either. So we tried to put a nice offer on him at $130 million over 5 years. Yelich, however, was the first big name to sign, and he chose the San Francisco Giants for way less money and way more years. He gets locked up for the rest of his life at $18 million a year. Then Eddie Rosario signs with the Indians on a 4-year, $39 million deal. If we really needed an outfielder, we could have gotten him. Freddie Freeman, though, we decide to try to go after, but he is just not interested in negotiating with us, so we go after Corey Eble Knievel, possibly to beef up this bullpen. 2 years, $12.5 million. Carlos Martinez does sign to become the ace pitcher next year for the Detroit Tigers. That is a big move by us, but then the White Sox, our division rivals, make a huge move as well, signing Roberto Osuna to a 9-year, $57 million deal. Chris Bryant accepts the Cubs offer of $245.6 million over 8 years, so we do not get him. He doesn't get a big thing for some reason. We make a nice deal with the Blue Jays to bring in some big prospects, and then Freddie Freeman signs with the Rockies. Freeman to the Rockies. Interesting. Him with Arenado, big corner infield. Then Noah Syndergaard decides to go to Houston on a 5-year, $91 million, not even a $100 million deal for Noah Syndergaard. Jose Lemieux accepts our coaching position as a hitting coach, and a lot of guys start getting claimed off of waivers. These are guys that were really bad and somehow on our 40-man. Roberto Perez signs with the Reds on a 2-year, $28 million deal. And then there it is, Frankie Lindor. Welcome to the Detroit Tigers on a 5-year, $135 million deal. He will be in the same division, but have a new rival. So, Miguel Cabrera, as you can see here, regression hit hard. Now just a 71 overall. He could only muster 11 home runs last year. He's going to end up in AAA this year, and that's what you get for not retiring when you probably should. Javi Baez becomes a Met, which is probably the most unrealistic thing you can think of. And then Carlos Correa becomes a Brave. So 2 big-time shortstops going opposite of each other in a division. Kansas City claims Carson Fulmer off of waivers because we try to move a 28-year-old 60-something down. JD Martinez gets traded off the Twins for Kiermaier and Bodie of the Rays. Then we go through the Rule 5 draft, and we actually took a look to see if there was anybody we would like. Yanni Hernandez looked really nice for a young player, but ultimately decided not to grab him and throw him immediately onto the Major League roster. So we moved right ahead through the Rule 5 draft, which continued to go without us. And we didn't really lose anybody in the Rule 5 draft, which was good. Max Kepler gets traded off the Twins. The Twins are unloading everyone. They unload Kepler for Keon Keala, Barrett Barnes, and Trey Cabbage. And then the Reds acquire Aroldis Chapman from the Yankees, so he goes back to the Yankees for Mike Moustakas. And then the newly signed Eddie Rosario gets traded with an A prospect in Espino to the Giants to pick up Christian Yelich for the Indians. Very interesting. Daniel Espino, a very nice starting pitcher who could definitely be something, but I don't know, Yelich, tough to give up Yelich for just that. Then it gets very late in free agency, and we offer Justin Turner a very small contract. Arbitration hearings are done, and Matthew Boyd ends up winning his. Well, we win Matthew Boyd's and pay him $5 million, and then we also win Nico Goodrum's. But then we lose against Phil Matone. He's going to make $1.6 million. We also lose to Seranthony Dominguez. He will make $2.6 million. And we lose to Christian Stewart. So Christian Stewart is a 68 overall, and he's going to make $2.6 million. Michael Fulmer also wins his for $3.4 million, and Joe Jimenez wins his for $2.6 million. Victor Reyes wins his for $3.29 million. So, decisions need to be made, as well as Bonifacio winning him for $288, and you can see my motion in the bottom left corner. Get him out of here, and that's exactly what we do. Bonifacio had interest from the Blue Jays. We get two really good prospects for him. And then Kristen Stewart, we take a haul in from the Rockies for Kristen Stewart, because there's no way I'm paying a guy who's probably going to end up in AAA this year for that much money. Then Victor Reyes also making a lot of money at $3.3 million, but he's never really hit above 250 except for 2019, where he really didn't even play a lot of games. And we could trade him straight up to the Boston Red Sox for Trey Mancini. I'm down. I'm taking it. So Trey Mancini will be our new right fielder in Detroit. Then we're making this big trade here with a lot of guys who can't be sent down for some reason. So we make the trade bringing in Bobby Corbett at catcher, who is Corey Corbett at second base's brother. So it's good to have both of those guys there if you remember the story from the scouting episode. And then checking out this final game of spring training. Look at that, all the way into the 9th at a tie game. And then we're in the bottom of the 11th. Frankie Lindor catches one on a rope, but it is caught at the warning track. So good to see Lindor with that power, though, but just need a little bit more to get over the fence. This ball gets away from the catcher, and now Casey Mize again. He's going to get the strikeout to have 2 outs in the top of the 12th, but the leading run is 90 feet away. And as you can see here, look, he's got the ball. I don't know why he doesn't put the tag on there. Some MLB The Show cheese. But then the next one would be a ground ball out. Good to have. Aaron Bummer coming into the game for Pittsburgh to try to close our Tigers out of this one. And that's a dribbler over to first base. That's going to be an out. And that's the first out of the bottom of the 12th. Nelson Barreto comes up and gets a ground ball right up the middle to easily get over to first base. That'll bring up Shed Long, who this one is a pass ball. Barreto gets to second. Shed Long still at the plate, but he's going to strike out on the low inside slider. So that brings up Jake Rogers. Rogers gives one a ride out to left, but it's just got a little bit too much air on it. And that is caught for the final out of the game, and the Pirates take us down. I believe we were 13-19 in spring training, something like that. Matt Manning unfortunately had to be traded because at the end of spring training, I wanted to send him to AAA, and he had no more options left. So trading him straight up for Nolan Gorman, who is a better overall and a younger player at third base, which is a spot we could really use somebody to come up next year because we won't have Turner. We have Turner this year. Now our lineup versus lefties will look something like this. Tommy Pace will DH and lead off. Kind of weird, right? Then Frankie Lindor, Jonathan Scope, CJ Cron, Trey Mancini, our backup sort of catcher, Travis d'Arnaud, who bats very well against lefties. Then Kendall Brown, Nelson Barreto, and of course our former number 1 overall pick at the beginning of the series, Richard McGowan. So we'll see how he can do in his second year in the majors. Then we have Richard McGowan leading off against righties with Kendall Brown, Frankie Lindor, Trey Mancini, Jonathan Scope, Riley Green. He had no more options, but we found a place for him to play. He will play against right-handed pitching. And then CJ Cron, Travis d'Arnaud, and Nelson Barreto will end it off. Nico Goodrum will be our all-around utility man. He plays every single spot on the field. Really so whenever somebody's tired, Nico Goodrum will just take his place.
You gotta pull him.
Rotation's looking nice. Carlos Martinez, Matthew Boyd, Jordan Balazovic, Daniel Norris, and Casey Mize splitting the lefties up perfectly. Corey Knievel will be our closer. Joe Jimenez moves to setup. And Seranthony Dominguez will set up as well. Phil Matan, Emmanuel Clase, a lot of guys in that pen that can do some work for us. And as you can see there with the budgeting, man, please retire at the end of the year, Miggy. I don't want to have to do something stupid. I really don't. So you can see what our positional needs are at this point, and there's a lot of guys that you will be seeing in the scouting episode, which would probably be like 4 episodes into the season, I believe. Look at these guys. Zamora, you have Andres Ortiz coming from the state of Ohio. I got news for you. He is an Ohio State Buckeye, so you will see him. Gerald Russo, he's going to play for Texas Tech this year. So you will get to see some highlights of Gerald Russo at Texas Tech. Bobby Shelton is a Pitt Panther, so that'll be interesting to see. Pedro Pedroza actually went to Iowa. He left the state of Illinois because Illinois can never recruit in state. So yeah, he ended up leaving there. Percy Williamson, yeah, it might say Massachusetts, but I don't know that he actually is going to end up going to Massachusetts. His signing date has yet to come. Gustavo Guzman, hook 'em horns, bro. He is going to go to the Texas Longhorns this year, so that'll be interesting to see what he ends up doing. Woody Madsen out of Minnesota, believe he's going to be a Gopher. We'll see what ends up happening with him. Looking strong like he'll be a Gopher. George Lavelle out of California. Definitely a possibility for him to go to almost any California school. Cal State Fullerton is a favorite. We'll see what else ends up happening. But you'll see those are just some of the blue chip prospects available this year. We've always had fun with the draft episodes and the scouting episodes, so looking forward to that. Now, taking a look at how the season opens up, we are opening up with Houston, LA, and then back with Houston. Then Houston again in April with Minnesota. That is just a tough 13-game stretch for us. It never gets easier, though, because we end up taking on the Dodgers, Indians, White Sox, Twins, Rays, who just made a big trade to get JD Martinez. I mean, June faces some easy games because we have Baltimore, Seattle, and San Francisco. And San Francisco had Mookie Betts and Yelich. They traded Yelich, so now they just have Mookie Betts. And, I mean, their lineup is pretty easy to navigate outside of Mookie Betts. Before the All-Star break, though, we get absolutely hammered with Minnesota, Cleveland, and New York. That is rough before the All-Star break. Into August, a lot of Cleveland games. We get some Toronto ones, which shouldn't be too difficult. But then in September, to finish off the year, we got White Sox, A's, White Sox, Rockies, and Indians. And we know the Rockies have great corner infield. We are ending with the Indians this year. This is what the Indians look like this year. Just an absolute juggernaut for the first, 7 hitters. And then their pitching rotation, very good, especially Shane Bieber, who I think we can beat, but their setup and closer, 2 very good players there. The White Sox, though, look just as hard lineup-wise in some respects. And obviously, we've had our fair share of trouble with the White Sox, but we've also given them a fair share of shit as well. The rotation, however, is pretty darn good. I mean, they look tough. The Twins do not look good in their starting rotation, but their pen looks very good, especially the final 3 guys. The 7, 8, and 9 inning bullpen guys look really nice, and their lineup is fantastically balanced. As you can see, just a lot of really good players there in their lineup. No weak points at all. So we have a very tough division, guys. I hope you're excited for the season. Can't wait to bring the first episode of Season 3 out for you on Wednesday. If you're excited, please drop a like on this video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel for the love of franchise content, because that is all we do here. We can build a winner together. Thank you and take care, everybody.
I feel you, somehow.